Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just shocked by the last 5 minutes of what I've heard. So I guess evidently the new thing is when America stands up for oppressed minorities, when America stands up for freedom, when we see 80,000 innocent people murdered by a regime that is supported by Iran, the new argument is to say, well, if you support doing something, then you're an extension of neocon arguments. And this is somehow, I didn't hear anywhere in Ms. Pleka's testimony, which, by the way, was to me an incredible 5 minutes of what we need to do. I heard nowhere in there did you say that we should send 150,000 troops in. I heard nowhere in there did you believe that, did you even compare that to any activity that we did in Iran, but yet being involved to stand for an oppressed minority or oppressed people by a regime supported by Iran has now become a new neocon argument. Shocking to me. And this is the bigger problem. The bigger problem is we've now accepted that since we went through a decade of war, part of which was brought on in Afghanistan by somebody that killed thousands of American people, innocent American people, since we're now a little fatigued, we can't do anything around the globe now but retreat and not be involved. That's what I'm hearing, and it's actually pretty scary to me. So I didn't intend to go off into that minute and a half, but let me, and first off, I would love for those who are saying that America is already so involved in Syria, please tell that to our allies, because our allies have begged us to get involved in Syria. The Turks, you know, other allies around the region have begged us to be involved. They say we need American leadership. So please, if you think we're already involved enough in Syria, tell them, because they need to hear that then. All right, there we go. Let me just say, I was actually a supporter of the President's policy in Libya. I was one of 6 Republicans to vote for it because I believe that a strong United States is a stabilizing force around the globe. But I believe now we have 2 messages that are coming out of the administration. There's the message that's domestic, which says, hey, just trust us. You know, we're actually doing something in Syria, but we can't really talk about it. And by the way, if we do anything, we can't control the outcome anyway. I mean, it's just, this is a fait accompli. And then again, there's the international message where the international community is bewildered because for the first time in history, America has done absolutely nothing, really, in a big situation like this. My question is, and it was to Ms. Pleka's statement, I think one of the biggest issues, basically the last 10 years has almost been a proxy war to some level against Iran. Iran is the big issue in the area. What message, especially when it comes to the issue of denuclearization that we're going to be very concerned with, what message has the United States policy in Syria sent in a larger case to Iran? I want to start with you, Ms. Pleka. I'll let the other 2 answer, but please keep it short because I have a whole bunch of other stuff.
I think I said in my statement, and thank you for defending the values that I think we should stand for, by the way. The message that we send to Iran is very clear, and the inference that the Iranians have drawn is very clear. The United States is not serious. We're not serious about our red lines. We're not serious about imposing our will, and that we will not, in fact, do what it takes to stop them from proceeding toward a nuclear weapon.
And let me add to that, the red line situation. Look, what should we do if chemical weapons are used? I'm not going to advocate for one way or the other right now, but I will say if you're the President of the United States and you ever utter the word red line, I don't care if you're in the middle of a campaign, I don't care if you're in the middle of a crowded theater on fire and the only way to evacuate it is to say the word red line. You never use that unless you intend to follow through because you are the President of the United States. And when you need to use a red line now, like in Iran, they're going to laugh. And you actually make war much more likely when you give the impression that you're not going to stand behind your word because your enemies don't take you seriously. Dr. Alterman, about the message we're sending to Iran right now.
I think the Iranians are looking at a lot of things. They're looking at what we're doing in North Korea. They're looking at a whole series of issues. I think the Iranians, quite frankly, are looking at our budget situation. And I would argue that the greatest threat to our standing in the world is not an individual policy or 2. It is the fact that we seem unable to make decisions about what our priorities are. We are unable to rebalance what our commitments are. And I would argue that distinguished members of this committee and this House need to take seriously the fact that how we resource what we do in the world will determine what we can do in the world and what people think.
And let me cut you off there. I agree with you. I don't disagree at all. Sorry, sir, I don't have enough time to give you an opportunity. But let me just say, we snatched I'm worried that we snatched defeat from the jaws of victory in Iraq. I'm worried that we're about to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory in Afghanistan. And I look at this administration's policy in Syria, and I wonder if we're about to make the same mistake. And I thank you, and I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. The gentleman's time has expired.